When World War I began in 1914, young Harry Cobby was a bank clerk in Melbourne. He didn't want to fly those funny aeroplanes. They were newfangled things that kept falling out of the sky. He wanted to fight on the ground in the trenches. So how did Harry Cobby become one of the war's great flying aces? The second child in a family of 4 boys, Harry was born Arthur Henry Cobby in Melbourne in 1894. He was just 20 when the First World War began and quickly offered himself to the Australian Imperial Force, the AIF, which was the army. But the Commonwealth Bank where he worked refused to let him go, so instead Harry later joined the Australian Flying Corps, the AFC, which was part of the army, even though he admitted that he wasn't really interested in flying. The first ever aeroplane flight had only been 11 years before the war. Using aircraft in combat was new, it was strange, but exciting. In late 1916, Harry was sent to the Central Flying School at Point Cook in Victoria for pilot training.
The Royal Flying Corps and the Australian Flying Corps, by extension, is just the newest, shiniest. Nothing is cooler than the Flying Corps. That's the really glory place to be.
Harry became an original member of No. 4 Squadron, arriving in England in March 1917.
He goes to various aerodromes in England then and becomes more and more qualified on various machines. He ends up being qualified on Sopwith Camels, which are a notorious aircraft to fly.
More airmen were killed learning to fly the Camel than were shot down by the enemy.
Switches on. Make it hot. Contact. Swinging.
All of their instruments are super touchy and it doesn't take very much to change the way the plane is working. When you rev it, it has massive torque to the left, so it's really common to take off and then just go over and crash.
Today's pilots get months, even years of training before going to war, but not back then. Harry only had 12 hours solo flying under his belt when he arrived in France ready for combat in December 1917. Just 12 hours of flying. And we're lucky to have him describe his combat days in his own words.
On many occasions when our ground forces in the trenches undertook to try and dislodge the enemy or break through, or vice versa, we would be allotted the task of shooting up the enemy trenches. Needless to say, there was much zooming and climbing in all directions, with a quick flick back at the troops in the trenches every now and then. At such close quarters, it didn't pay to be in the same place for too long.
By the time he'd reached 15 German planes shot down, he'd been awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, the DFC, for his bravery and for his flying skills. When he reached 21, he finished up with 29 German planes shot down. When he reached 21, he'd been awarded 2 bars for his DFC. That's like being awarded 2 extra Distinguished Flying Crosses. Now, that was almost unheard of.
His activity is never ending and he is constantly being put up for awards because it is so constantly remarkable.
Remarkable too was Harry's sense of humour and his big personality, which raised morale in the squadron in those dark days. One historian labelled him an imp of mischief, and he personalised his Sopwith Camel with aluminium cutouts of the great comic actor Charlie Chaplin. This is a replica of his aircraft at the Australian Army Flying Museum at Oakey in Queensland. Now, if a World War I pilot downed 5 or more enemy balloons, he earned the title of a balloon-busting ace. Harry was the only Australian ever to achieve that honour.
They were by no means easy to shoot down or set on fire, and although the observers had machine guns, which they didn't often use but preferred to hop over the side on a parachute, they frequently possessed a sting of their own.
His No. 4 Squadron was among the best on the Western Front in 1918. In September 1918, Harry was transferred out of France to a training unit in England. When the Royal Australian Air Force, the RAAF, was formed in 1921, Harry joined up and was made a flying officer. He left the RAAF in 1935 and soon after he joined the Civil Aviation Board, which managed air transport in Australia. Harry became its controller of operations. But when World War II broke out, Harry rejoined the RAAF, where he was promoted to the very senior rank of Air Commodore, and he became the Director of Recruiting.
So seize your opportunity now and join the Air Force and play your part.
He went on to command 20,000 men and women in the Southwest Pacific. He was awarded what's called a CBE, that's Commander of the British Empire, for doing a great job running air operations over New Guinea. Those 7 months as a scout pilot in 1918 set the stage for the rest of Harry Cobby's amazing life.
He goes from a bank clerk who wanted to serve in the army to accidentally getting into the Royal Flying Corps and becoming one of the fathers of Australian aviation.
It's a truly remarkable story. Harry Cobby, who only wanted to be a foot soldier on the ground, ended up as one of the most important figures in the whole history of Australian flying.